Hey besties, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another episode of TBR Takeover. If you're new here, TBR Takeover is basically a series where I let my fellow booktubers choose my TBR. So they send me a clip telling me what to read and I read it. So today's person is Life as Monae. She is a booktuber that I really enjoy. I love her content. She is a lot of fun and she reads very widely. In my mind, I feel like she's known for reading fantasy, but I know she reads a lot more than fantasy. It's just that's how I found her channel. Today, we're gonna react to the clip that she sent me. She actually sent it to me quite a few months ago, but my channel got a little crazy. We just had Sarahween. We were uploading 13 videos in October and I was like, I'm very sorry I can't get to this until November. But now it's time to read the books that Monae picked out for me. So let's react.
Hello. First of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity to come onto your channel, your domain, and recommend you some stories. I have 3 books here today that I'm very excited to share with you. I was trying to think of 3 books that, one, I think don't get enough hype in the book community that I want to see talked about more, that you haven't read, but that I also think that you might enjoy. And so these are the 3 that I came up with. First and foremost, we're going to kick it off with Flamer. This is a queer graphic novel that I gave 5 stars, and I haven't heard anybody else talk about it in the booktube community. This book is set at a summer camp where we're following Aiden, and this is the year between middle school and high school for him. He's coming to this awakening that he may be gay, but he's having a really hard time digesting it because he's also just kind of repulsed by boys and how they can be very rude and misogynistic and mean.
Honestly, that is very relatable. Very relatable. Already relating to this character.
And bully him, but at the same time, he has this weird attraction to one of his campmates that he is having a hard time ignoring. And then we have The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. This book, to be fair, has been talked about in the booktube community, but I think it deserves so much more hype. This book is centered around Yamilet, who is queer, but she is in the closet. After being outed at her last school, she is now in this Catholic school, and she's determined to stay in the closet, but that is so much more harder to do than she expects. She also has a lot of home responsibilities, and her mother is a very big presence in her life, and she's having a really hard time being her truest, authentic self in front of her mother, knowing how her religious beliefs will affect how she sees her daughter and how she lives throughout her sexuality in her life.
Religious trauma, also very relatable.
Amazing book, great representation, and I hope that you love it. And then last but not least, another book that just does not get enough hype in the booktube community, one that literally changed my life, that is What My Bones Know. This is a autobiography by this author, Stephanie Fu, who has complex PTSD. She was diagnosed with complex PTSD at a time where research and coping mechanisms was really lacking. So she talks about her life, her repeated exposure to trauma, and how that kind of worked to rewire her brain and how she sees the world, and how it deeply impacted her life and the relationships and where she is today. One of my favorite parts about this book is that she actually, if you listen to the audiobook, includes recording sessions with her therapist, which at the time seemed a bit weird because she wasn't sure why anybody would want to actually record their therapy sessions, but she put it to excellent use with this book. This is a beautiful story about understanding the way trauma works on the mind, especially complex trauma due to constant exposure to things that have occurred in your life. These are my 3 recommendations for you. Happy reading.
Oh my god, I feel like that last book is gonna be interesting for me because for those of you who don't know, I used to be in a religious cult. I wonder what my bones know. I've actually heard from quite a few people that that's one of their favorite memoir / nonfiction books that they've read in recent times. So I have high hopes for that one. I will say the first 2 I'd actually never heard of. I'm excited for a cute little queer graphic novel. I've never read a queer graphic novel. I've honestly never read a lot of graphic novels. I'm not a huge graphic novel reader, but I'm excited to pick that up. I'm a little bit nervous about The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, not because of the content. Obviously the content sounds amazing, like the rep and everything. I'm just not a huge YA reader, but I am still excited about this list. I'm a little surprised that Monae didn't give me any fantasy to read, but I feel like she was like, let me give her some deep cuts. Let me give her some books that maybe she hasn't read or heard of, and so I'm excited. Okay besties, I am about 40% of the way through The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. I think that's what it's called. I don't know what to feel about it. I think my fears are being confirmed that this isn't really a book for me. I don't really like young adult anymore. The writing style is pretty simplistic, and it makes it easy to read. Sorry, I'm trying to be nice. It makes it easy to read, but I don't love it. I don't love it. This is not my favorite style of writing for YA and writing just in general, like even if it was an adult novel. And I don't know, I'm not a huge contemporary reader either, unless it's like adult romance. And even then I have a lot of gripes with like contemporary adult romance. So I'm not loving that. And then the plotting is a little bit weird. It moves really quickly, like a story, like I mentioned, it's going by very fast, like almost like a detriment to getting to know these characters. I don't know, it makes sense because she's a teenager, right? And so I think sometimes my adult brain, when I read YA, like I judge a character, like because I'm an adult with an adult brain, like my frontal lobe is fully developed, and there are just like some choices that she's making that I'm just like kind of like disappointed by, because she's so desperate to cover the fact that she is a lesbian that she is sometimes choosing to do some things that are like not the nicest to protect her secret. She just did this thing in the last part that I read where I was like, girl, why would you do that? Why would you do that? That was so mean. Don't do that. But I get it. Even in her POV, she's like, oh my god, I can't believe I just did that. Like, that was horrible. I don't know. She's just like a teenager doing teenager things. And I think I have a very low tolerance for teenager things. And so that's also why even when I used to read YA, contemporary YA that like takes place in a high school has always been my least favorite. So that is unfortunate. I'm sorry, Monae, that this is the first book that I'm reading and these are my thoughts. Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading it. I still have like 60% left. So there is a chance that my opinion could get better once we get more into the meat of the story. That's my other complaint, is that like I'm almost halfway through and I feel like we're not in the meat of the story. Like we're getting a lot of repetitive scenes of like her having, you know, issues with her mom or like issues with her old best friend, and her having, you know, a crush on this girl at school. And then I don't know, like I feel like the story's not moving the way that I want it to. If that makes sense. I don't know. And I didn't expect so much of it to take place at a school, which is my bad because it literally says Guide to Catholic School in the title. So it would make sense that she's gonna be at a Catholic school for most of it. Okay guys, I finished The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School and I'm very apologetic to everyone who likes this book, including you, Monae, if you're watching this. I don't think it was the book for me. I'm not gonna rate it on Goodreads because I don't think I was the intended audience, especially with it being a YA book, and I know that I don't like adult, so I don't feel like I need to give it a negative rating. I probably just won't rate it on Goodreads. I thought the pacing was a little bit all over the place in this book, and I did not enjoy the romance. I feel like the way that important issues were discussed was very just like kind of cheesy, and I don't know, I think maybe if I was like 16 I would have really liked this. I definitely wish that books like this had existed when I was a teenager because I think I would have learned a lot. I'm very sorry, Monae, that I didn't like it, because I know you literally said in your intro that you wanted more booktubers to read it and talk about it in a positive way, and I unfortunately am not talking about it in a positive way. Okay besties, I am about halfway through What My Bones Know, and I am really enjoying this. I don't read nonfiction very often, so I'm kind of glad that Monae put this on this list because I just don't know if I would have picked it up otherwise. I definitely recognize the cover. Like I think I've seen someone talk about it, or I've seen it on like a Goodreads list or something, but I didn't know much about it, and I'm really enjoying Stephanie Fu like exploring her PTSD. Complex PTSD, CPTSD. That was a hard acronym for me. Anyway, I'm really enjoying her style of memoir. Like she kind of tells it like a story with some introspection going on. So there are some like dialogue scenes where like there's like conversations and like things going on, but it's also her like inserting everything she's learned about complex PTSD at the same time. I will say it is very dark. If you have any sort of triggers for like childhood trauma or abuse, I definitely wouldn't recommend reading this, but if you can handle it, it's just so fascinating. I don't have complex PTSD, but I can really relate to a lot of the ways that her anxiety works. Like for example, she is always very stressed out that people don't actually love her and that they like secretly hate her slash think she's too much, and she like needs a ton of reassurance. I am very much like that as well. Like I constantly need people to remind me that they like me and that they appreciate me. Like I was actually joking with my patrons the other day that sometimes when I'm in the Discord I forget that my Patreon is actually for me, and I'll be like, oh my god, am I annoying people? Like do people think I'm stupid? Do people like think I'm silly? And then I realize that people are literally like in my Patreon because they're a fan of me, and I just forget that sometimes. And so I don't know, I'm really relating to that part of her kind of like attachment style, like how she interacts with her boyfriend. And so I'm just really enjoying the pacing and the way that she's telling the story, because she is definitely giving you some insight into what she thinks now and present day Stephanie, but also giving you a really candid look into her mindset throughout each year that this is going on. And it's just such an interesting topic because I feel like she's mentioned this multiple times that not that many people have really put in the energy to really look into complex PTSD. So I feel like this is a really good resource for people who might have that. And so I don't know, it's a really interesting read. Okay besties, I finished What My Bones Know and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was gonna be like an all-time favorite, but by the time I finished it, it felt like a little long, just a little long for what it was. But I did really like it. I loved Stephanie Fu's exploration of her own trauma, and I really enjoyed that in the audiobook she included recordings of her therapy sessions. It was just I don't know how to describe it. It was a really interesting read. I also loved how she explored generational trauma. Like, she wasn't like excusing her parents' abuse, but she also kind of was looking into like, why are our parents the way that they are, especially in Asian culture with all the different atrocities that have gone on in Asia and how everybody has like immigrated over to the US and like what has gone on. So it's so interesting. It's just really, really interesting to read about her perspective, obviously as the daughter of immigrants. And she also goes and talks to some other people from high school and like teachers and people that she knew growing up to try to figure out like, was she the only one that experienced this sort of thing when she was growing up in San Jose? And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, I don't really know what I would rate it. I think like if we're going off of just like enjoyment, probably like 4.5 stars, but like probably like 5 stars for the exploration of like the topic that she was like tackling, because I did find a lot of it like super relatable, like in how she attaches to people, like in her relationships. Like every time she like would need reassurance from her boyfriend, I really felt that because I'm like that with my boyfriend. But Monae, we had a winner with this one. Thank you so much for getting me to read this book, because I definitely would not have picked it up if you hadn't assigned it to me, just because I'm not a huge nonfiction reader. But I really liked this. I really did. And so I only have one more book to read, and we'll have to see what I think of the graphic novel. Listen, if you can see how messy my room is in the background, please just look away. Look away, mind your business, ignore it. Just don't look at the surfaces that are behind me. Erin currently has a bunch of friends over for a board game night, and so I can't really film downstairs in my office because obviously they're like playing and having fun, and you would hear it a ton in the background. Also, I just kind of want to lay in my bed with my heating blanket like this. It's just a cozy time for me because I have to read this. I need to finish. This is the last book for this vlog. I've been working on this vlog for a really long time. Like, I think I started reading the books in like mid-November, I think, and I just keep putting off reading this graphic novel because I have to physically read it, and I know it's not going to take me very long. Like, I already started it and I read this in like no time, so I know this is gonna be a really quick read. And so I'm just gonna read this in my bed, and then we can talk about what I think about it and then close out the video. I'm a little bit nervous because I do think that this is supposed to be kind of heavy. I think it's like a coming out story about a kid named Aiden. He's between middle and high school, and he goes to like summer camp. But anyway, I think it's gonna be like a very serious book, because also the pull quote on the front said this book will save lives. So I feel like it's not going to be very happy-go-lucky. Like I mentioned, I have read a little bit of the beginning, and I feel like the writing style is very interesting. It's like kind of simplistic. Like, it looks kind of like it was like drawn with a charcoal pencil sort of thing, and every once in a while it uses red and orange to, you know, like display like fire or like things like anger or something like that. I'm gonna be frank, I don't love this art style. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I don't hate it either. I kind of like the simplicity of it, but at the same time it's not like, oh my god, I love this art style. Does that make any sense? Also, what am I using as a bookmark? Oh, I got a new webcam recently, and this is the instruction booklet for the webcam. So apparently that, oh, also I just took it out of the book to show you the bookmark, and I realized I lost my page, but I think I'll be able to find it. Let me get into this and then we'll chat about what I think. Besties, I have horrible news. I have horrible news. I can't read this. I can't read this. I am currently on page 144. I just got to a scene where a bunch of boys at the summer camp were in a tent and they were mutually masturbating into a bottle. The drawings in this are not graphic, so you don't like see it, but they like are talking about it. I understand that that has happened to some young men in their experience, that they like with their friends mutually. That's weird. I think my issue with this, I'm sorry, I do have to critique it. I do have to critique it. I know this isn't written for me and I'm not the audience for it, because I do believe this is like a young adult graphic novel. It's like there's a lot of just like pointless facts, and it's kind of a stream of consciousness of this main character, Aiden, and he just like shares random facts about his life, and then like things he's just like thinking about, like sometimes he'll just like talk about like something he like learned at church, because we also find out he's like Catholic. I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it. All of the scenes feel really strung together, and like I don't feel like there's a cohesive plot. It reads simultaneously very young, like almost middle grade, because he is like only, I think he's like 13, because he just came out of like 8th grade, so like his mindset definitely feels kind of middle grade vibes. But then some of the jokes and the bullying and the things that people are saying to him feel a little bit older. I'm not saying that bullies don't say like wildly inappropriate things. Like, he's half Filipino, and they also say some like pretty racist things to him. I don't know how to explain it. Like, the writing, even though it's just like little blurbs of people talking, it's not giving for me, and I do not like the art style. I think I was trying to be a little bit nice earlier when I was like, oh, I guess it's okay. I don't like it. It's actually hard for me to tell the difference between some characters because some of the characters are drawn so similar. Like sometimes I'll think I know who I'm looking at, and then the dialogue will make me realize that it's supposed to be someone else. I hate when I do TBR Takeover and I don't like the books. I'm sorry. I feel like we have some good news. I absolutely loved What My Bones Know. Like I really enjoyed that. I feel like it's one of the best memoirs that I've ever read. So I'm really grateful to Monae for getting me to read that book, because I really loved that one. I really did. And that was like a really great reading experience. I would highly recommend that if you're looking for a nonfiction memoir about trauma. But with all this being said, I definitely think you should still check out Monae if you haven't seen her channel before. She reads really widely. So even with these 3 books that she recommended to me, this is not the only thing that she reads. She definitely reads a lot of adult fantasy. I know she reads romance. Like, she reads everything. So if you are looking for a new like smaller booktuber to follow that maybe you just haven't come across her channel before, she is great. I really like Monae. So definitely please check her out, and do not take my opinions on her faves as law, because I'm sure plenty of people love these books. It's just my opinions. I think this is like the official nail in the coffin for me deciding that I cannot read YA anymore. Like I simply will not read young adult, especially not young adult contemporary. Like this is just, if anything, this was an educational video for me to just finally be like, no. And moving forward with TBR Takeover, I definitely will let people know that I don't want to read YA. If you watch this video all the way through and you enjoyed it despite me not liking some of the books, feel free to use the strawberry emoji in honor of this sweater. I think this actually is my second time wearing this sweater in the video. But yeah, leave a strawberry in your comments down below. And another thank you to Monae for participating in TBR Takeover. Thank you all for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.